Hello and welcome to Macro Degree. Despite the surge in gold and silver prices, gems and jewelry exports declined by 3% in FY26 to a 5-year low of $27 billion. Gems and jewelry was the leading category in the export basket a decade before. Exports have fallen more than 40% from their peak in the last decade. Let's talk to Vipul Shah, former chairman of Gems and Jewelry Export Promotion Council, to understand why the exports have been shrinking despite a steady growth in global jewelry consumption. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sangeeta. The all started with US implying all the tariffs, and that was the main hurdle for the exports going to the US. Of the gem and jewelry basket, more than 40 to 50% is the loose diamond exports.
Okay.
So that was severely impacted, and that was the major reason why you are seeing the numbers slow down. Trade treaty was supposed to be signed with US. Once the trade treaty was signed, we were confident that our business will be back to normal in the US market.
Hmm.
So we are just waiting.
Right, sir.
Second big issue is related to this geopolitical between Iran, Israel, and US and demand in the Middle East market. So that became more challenging, and that was an additional pushback to our exports.
So, as you rightly said, diamond in the major category in our gems and jewelry sector, and that has been affected by the US tariffs. Now, looking at gold and silver, gold prices moved up 61% in FY26, and silver prices in 128%. Gold jewelry exports declined, and silver jewelry export growth has been slower. This indicates lower export volume. Why did the export volumes decline in FY20?
So rightly the prices shot up. It was becoming very unaffordable for the consumer. Consumer stepped back. They just wanted to buy the jewelry or the gold at the right price. So whenever there is whenever in place, consumers will shy away from buying. So that is one of the major reasons that why the gold business exports also is took a little bit hit. And again, it also faced the similar challenges as what we face in diamonds. So all these also, in the end, this impacted the total gem and jewelry exports.
This decline in exports is not a recent phenomenon. In FY12, exports were over $45 billion. And in FY26, it is down by over 40% to $27 billion. At one point of time, gems and jewelry had 17% share in the export basket, and now it has dropped to 6%. But if you look at jewelry demand globally, the US jewelry market has grown from 70 billion to 105 billion. And the China market also has grown from 39 billion to 94 billion. The UAE market, another key market for India, that also has been growing. How did we actually lose out in the key markets in this past one decade? And who has been grabbing our share of our of exports?
And the total gems and jewelry basket, 50% of the basket contain of cut and polish diamond exports. So that particular segment has been severely hit because of supply and demand disruption. At one time, we were having an exports of 2 billion of cut and polish, which has come down to almost 11, 12 billion. Prices were constantly falling since last couple of years. There were multiple reasons to it. Oversupply of rough diamonds was one of the major reasons. Lab-grown diamond also came into play, and that again confused the consumer.
Okay.
And then third major reason, which I just discussed, is because of the geopolitical issues, which shrank the market. The industry has already bottomed out, and from here we see good amount of growth. The supply and demand is also well balanced, as well as clarity on the natural diamonds, clarity on the lab-grown diamonds. There is a relaxation on the geopolitical side. We'll see this industry start flourishing again.
I would like to have a little more clarity on that, sir. So you said, there was a supply demand issue, there was geopolitical tensions, and the lab-grown diamonds had come in. So these were the main reasons why we were seeing the exports coming down. Now, if you look at our markets, key market was US market. The key market has grown in this past decade. China market, which is actually serviced by Hong Kong, that also has grown, and UAE market also has grown. And so it's not that consumption has been declining because of supply demand issues or geopolitical tension. Consumption has been growing. but we were not able to service it. So, was it something inherent to our export sector?
It is, I agree to that, that yes, if you see from the consumer markets and if you see the numbers from there, it's not dependent on outcome. We have been severely affected. China, of course, COVID never came into market. China was down, but they were buying gold. They were not buying studded jewelry or cut and polished diamond as such. They were just buying gold for security and saving. And US, yes, US were, they got another additional choice in form of lab grown. So gradually, the consumer started to absorb more and more of the lab grown. So today, lab grown in US is become very very popular, and that is also one of the reasons where the demand has shifted.
Even in case of lab grown diamonds, what is our share in the global market? I think China also has been doing well in this particular segment. Where do we stand in lab grown
So
diamonds?
again, as far as lab-grown diamond is concerned, India is the number one place as far as cutting and polishing is concerned.
Yes.
So all the small diamonds, whether it is any small diamonds which is even fitting into the watches as such, everything is cut and polished from India, except for very large stones, which is about 2 carat plus, where some of the other manufacturing centers are able to cut and polish. Industry is having a very strong hold on the cutting and polishing and the skilled labor along with us. That is not going to take away India's share. There are countries who are able to have some kind of facilities outside India where there is a growing taking place. Currently, I can say we are having, say, more than 75 to 80% of the market share as far as growing of lab grown is concerned.
We have been seeing that the processing companies, they have been investing in the countries where the rough diamonds are mined, like say Botswana or South Africa. They have been putting up units there, and even Indian companies have been doing this. They are going there and setting up units. So why is this happening? In that case, will we see the roughs coming to India falling further?
These are the countries, see, these are the places which you mentioned. They are full of resources. Botswana is like they have mines with them. So surely anybody who is interested into the mining industry will look into South African and will look into Botswana, will look into Namibia. So these are the places where there are resources, where there are different kind of gold mines as well as diamond mines. So and our supply is also dependent as far as all the natural rough diamonds are concerned. Today, the world is driven by demand, and cutting and polishing is where we have a dominant position as such.
There is something absurd about the rules regarding import of rough diamonds. In special notified zones, a multinational diamond miner can display and auction their rough diamonds, but cannot sell them to the processors in India. So they have to go back, and then the export order has to be made. Has this affected the ease of doing business in the sector?
So yes, cost of logistics have gone up. So that has been represented very well by the council. There is a consensus which I am seeing from from the government. If the things takes place here, an auction, and if we do not have to travel, and it saves a lot of cost, logistics, and bring down our costs, and we can become more competitive. So I'm sure this has been looked by the government, and will find an amicable solution for the same.
Despite being a largest diamond processor, we do not have a global jewelry brand from India. Why has not the industry worked on creating a global brand like, say, Cartier or Chinese?
We are seeing brands like Tanish coming up, opening up their stores in Middle East. Companies, jewelers like Kalyan, Malabar. So yes, they are putting their foothold into the Middle East market. I personally feel that India as a brand, India as a jewelry brand, it would be reflected globally, where we will be seeing the visibility.
Like any other consumer segment, be it textiles, mobile phones, or electronics, jewelry preferences and trends are also changing fast in the global market. How are we actually catching up with these trends?
We have topmost jewelry designers, where we are council is also promoting through artisan awards and getting all the designers on the board. We have designers who are capable enough to understand the particular market segments, like whether it is like competing the Italian designs, or whether it's for the European market or Middle East market or the US. So our designers are very very efficient and able to come up with something really creative, and if you give them any theme or concept, they are very very quick to adapt to all these new changes as such. So yes, council through this Artisan Awards and trying to bring new designers and trying to help the industry to promote brand India to take to another level.
The sector is also dominated by family-owned businesses. Do you think there is a need for professionally run businesses to come in? Where you can probably think differently and about new designs and how to cater to the global market, and also bring in more capital so that the businesses can move with the changes in the global market.
This industry, when it was like a family oriented, it's more on the cutting and polishing segment where the skills were passed to from a generation to generation. Today, with automation taking place, the industry is wide open with the corporate people coming into the industry. Moving forward in the jewelry segment, we have all professionals in place. And then going into capital markets, again, it's led by the professional. So already there is a lot of changes taking place in the industry. Like I mean, it started maybe predominantly as a family business, but not anymore. It's becoming more and more corporatized, and more professional people are into the industry.
As far as availability of skilled labor is concerned, whenever there is a disruption in the market, the units close down and the labor goes for some other job. And retaining them is a big issue. How far are you able to retain the skilled labor and also improve their skill sets?
In this current crisis where we had this issue of supply and demand disruption, the lab-grown diamond played a very complementing role because it's having a similar process of natural diamond. So the workers were well taken care of. Lab-grown diamond supported the industry during the times of the supply and demand disruption. So I don't see that as a threat. And only thing is how from here we can create more demand for our jewelry products and how we take the market share globally. It also depends how the geopolitical scenario cools down. So I don't see personal any challenge as far as the workforce is concerned. At one point of time, gems and jewelry industry was a leading category in the export basket. How can the sector regain its share in exports? What kind of solution do you offer from the industry side? And what should the government do to make the exports return to the earlier levels? So again, as I said, that the government is very proactive with the gem and jewelry industry. One of the major things which I would like to mention is that a lot of FTA has been signed by different countries. So that also is helping to boost our exports. So how is the industry remaining competitive when there are several things happening in the global market? We are moving forward with the jewelry, where we see that jewelry world market we have enough room to grow. As I said, we have a lot of good upcoming jewelry designers from our country who are adaptable, who are able to get us the best of the best designs. So we have all kind of talented pool in India where collectively we are able to gradually take the industry forward. So that was Mr. Vipul Shah, former chairman of GJPC, who was telling us that though the exports have declined from their peak levels, almost 40% from their peak levels, now it is going to rebound. We have bottomed out, and we will see the exports coming back to their earlier levels and probably go even higher. Thank you for joining me on the show. Thanks, Sangeeta. Thank you so much.